All right, y'all. We are moving on to our fishing for fantasy segment, one of our favorite segments. And now that we have Sergi, it's going to be even more interesting because this guy is a connoisseur of fantasy football. Rob, go ahead
To
and
a
get us started
fault.
with the quarterbacks.
All right, so I am going to start us off with Daniel Jones versus Kansas City. Now, I feel like after last segment, in order to kind of give this fantasy pick more credibility, I do have to point out this was actually Sergi's suggestion. I know last time I recommended a quarterback against Kansas City, he pulled a Taylor Heineke and literally was Taylor Heineke and did not have a great game.
What did I say? What did I
If you
say?
can't have a good game against the Kansas City defense, I don't know what to tell you. There's a special place for Washington football team. But
It's got to be
anyway,
awful to wake up and realize you're literally Taylor Heineke.
right. But anyway, Daniel Jones. This guy can actually put up some points. He's capable of getting rushing touchdowns. He should have Kadarius Toney, who looks like an absolute stud. Shepard, possibly Barkley. A lot of really big talents on his team coming back. That offense may have some success against a very weak Kansas City defense and a Kansas City offense that's been turning the ball over quite a bit and giving good field position.
All right, next up, we have hot name. I don't know if you guys have heard about this guy before. He's a pretty talented quarterback out of Clemson. Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is currently available in a little bit over 16% of ESPN leagues, and their rumor mill is abuzz that Deshaun Watson is going to, one, be moved before the November 2nd trade deadline, but two, he's not going to be placed on the commissioner exempt list. So the rumor mill right now says that he's going to be either going to be going to Miami or to Carolina. I think either way, Deshaun Watson is worth a speculative stash. And then I'm sorry, everyone. This is my bad. Before we move on to running backs, I do have to apologize. As an award, the In Defense of Jackson Mahomes Bad Hot Take Award. Last week, I recommended Ramondre Stevenson to our viewers. And Ramondre Stevenson actually ended up putting up 0 points this week. And not because, he didn't play a snap or he got hurt or something. It's because he wasn't active. I believed in this fallacy of rational coaching where Bill Belichick could say, hey, you know what? I have this 23-year-old stud, 6 foot, 230-pound running back out of Oklahoma. He's a 4th-round pick. The guy can catch passes. I should start him as my pass-catching running back. And Bill Belichick said, no. Brandon Bolden, 31 years old, special teamer. He's going to have like 7 receptions for 80 yards and a touchdown this week. So I apologize for recommending Ramondre Stevenson, and I will never, ever speculate about a New England running back ever again. I have learned my lesson. I'm so sorry.
Next up, we do have a backup running back who probably would have gashed Sergi last week as well, Dearness Johnson. Now, if those of you were paying attention last week, 50% of fantasy Twitter was saying, don't get Dearness Johnson. Don't get anybody from Cleveland. It's a backup quarterback and backup running back, 3rd string running back. But there was another 50% that was just like, yo, it's a potent running offense and Case Keenum has mobility. Why don't we see what happens? Dearness blew up. The dude was a monster. He was real solid. He looks special. He's another talented backup. Kareem Hunt's going to be out for at least a month. He's only missed week 1 so far of that time span. So even when Nick Chubb comes back, he'll probably play that Kareem Hunt role and give them an opportunity to continue to run the football while they rely on Case Keenum, just in case Baker Mayfield ends up missing any more time. That shoulder injury is going to be kind of unexpected throughout the rest of the year, I'm fairly certain. So, with that said, if he's still available, go for Dearness Johnson. Probably a worthwhile pickup.
Yeah, and reminder, he was our Earth Award for this week. And interesting enough, our next pickup was the runner-up for Earth Award, not because he had some insanely strong stats or the most fantasy points, but because of the fact that he broke 100 yards rushing against the Tampa Bay defense. That is not some small feat, especially when the offense is malfunctioning as a whole. That's very impressive. He is looking like another special backup, and he did this while, is it Damian Williams? Is that who it is? The other running
Damian Williams.
Yeah, while he was active, which means that as long as David Montgomery is not back, you can expect this guy to get you 15 plus points, because if he pulled the 18, whatever he pulled against Tampa without getting a touchdown, that is a very strong sign. This guy has value for a couple more weeks until Montgomery comes back. He's still only rostered in 44.8% of leagues. I'm part of that problem because I dropped him when I saw that he was playing Tampa Bay. Apparently, it was too early to drop him. He's still producing.
Just a note on Khalil Herbert, and I know Zach and I talked about this in the preseason. He's just a good running back. He's just a good player. I mean, it's a shame that he has to play behind David Montgomery because I think this is a guy who's like a James Robinson-esque player who can start as a late round pick or undrafted pick on a multitude of teams. Next up, we have Kenyan Drake. This one should be obvious. And Josh Jacobs has a chest injury. Josh Jacobs has been banged up all year. Kenyan Drake is really going to be the main lead running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. Catches passes, runs the football pretty well. He was effective every game he's played so far. If he's on your waiver wire, you should pick him up because you're going to be getting a 3-down back.
Next up, we have kind of more of a speculative ad. This is going to be Marlon Mack. This is only for the people who have the extra roster space or maybe have like a super deep sleeper at wideout and are kind of top heavy and maybe need more potential at running back. It's Marlon Mack. There were talks about him getting traded over the past couple of weeks, and considering the NFL trade deadline is this upcoming week, or I guess next week technically, it's going to be a big deal. So Marlon Mack is one of those guys who could potentially find his way onto a roster that needs a running back, especially if it ends up being somebody like Baltimore. Dude is definitely worth the ad. Mm-hmm. So after him, we got a special wide receiver that was brought up last week. Rob, go ahead, tell me about him.
Alan Lazard, only owned in 4.9% of leagues, but 2 straight weeks with touchdowns. So Aaron Rodgers has started to trust this guy. He's had 11 targets in the past 2 weeks. Now he's going up against an Arizona defense this week, which is not necessarily the best matchup, but afterwards he has Kansas City, Seattle, and Minnesota, which are all fairly juicy matchups. Now, here's the interesting part about this. We actually had recommended Alan Lazard before we knew that Devontae Adams would be missing this next week. Now that we know that, all of a sudden, Alan Lazard fantasy stock goes up quite a bit. So we're looking at now 4 juicy fantasy football matchups coming up for the next 4 weeks. If you are in need at the wide receiver position, this guy might be the answer for you.
Yeah, and just a heads up about Alan Lazard. I believe his measurements are 6'5", 230 pounds. This man is built to catch touchdowns. Pick him up right now when you have the opportunity. Next up, and I can't believe we're still talking about this because this man is only 69% owned in leagues. Maybe he got dropped for the bye week, but pick up Emmanuel Sanders. Even with the bye week, he is the number 17 wide receiver in the NFL in half PPR. He's a wide receiver too, despite missing a week. He's the number 2 receiver in a top 5 passing offense. Do I need to say more? Josh Allen, Manny Sanders, get him on your roster and just put him in your flex suite every single week and just profit.
And now we're going to move on to tight ends. We have none other than the husband of Julie Ertz, famous female soccer player, Zach Ertz. My man's was a very appreciated player in Philly. I actually really liked him, which is counterproductive for me, considering I'm a Washington football team fan. So when he would score, I'd be like, yes, wait, no, darn it. You know what I mean? Like it was a hard thing for me to deal with. But when he got traded to Arizona, I felt really good about that because they are on my short list of teams that I really enjoy. So last week, Rob and Sergi called him. They were like, yo, well, not literally called him on the phone. We're like, bro, what you going to do this week?
No, I got the digits. It's fine.
Yeah, you got the digits.
Yeah,
Great.
I'm homies with Zach.
Boom. Yeah, you are homies with Zach, with this Zach. So, and that Zach, you should introduce me. We can be Zach squared.
Yeah, but you're more handsome. It's fine.
I don't think you should say that on air. That's not true. Zach Ertz is much more handsome than I am.
That's a cap.
So, with that said, Zach Ertz has produced 2 weeks in a row. Last week was his first week with Arizona, and he did put up like 14.5 to 16 points, depending on what type of league that you play in, unless you have a tight end premium in which he produced even more points than that. He's still rostered in less than 90% of leagues. It's 83.7% as of right now, which is kind of low for a starting tight end on a pass-happy team. Go for him if he's not already gone. Pick him up, put him on your roster like I did, and profit.
Your window is closing very quickly on tight end Hunter Henry. He is now rostered on 71.6%. This man is Mr. Floor himself. He has had 4 straight weeks of double-digit performances. His lowest point total in PPR leagues in 7 games has been 6.1. This guy is consistently bringing in fantasy points. Is he going to be your Darren Waller 45 points? No, he's not. But do we like it when our tight ends don't bring us 1 or 2 points? Yes, we like that a lot. Tight end is a tough position. It can be boom or bust, and this guy is Mr. Floor himself.
All right, next up, I'm going to rattle off 2 more tight ends before we move on to defense. One, we've got, and this is one of my favorite football names in all of the NFL, tight end for the Indianapolis Colts, Mr. Mo Alley-Cox. Now, the one thing you need to know about Mo Alley-Cox is that this man is gigantic. He is enormous. When you look at this guy, he looks like an offensive lineman playing tight end. Now, this is the one thing that's really lacking here. It's kind of target volume. I mean, he's had maybe 6 targets across the last 2 weeks. But what's not lacking here is touchdowns. This guy has found the end zone the past 2 weeks. The Colts offense is starting to find the right gear. Carson Wentz is starting to click. Frank Reich has made comments about this is the guy who was on the Eagles his MVP season. And the stats right now are matching up. I want to own some more pieces of the Indianapolis Colts, and Mo Alley-Cox is not a bad place to go. And then last but not least, if you're hurting desperately for a tight end, there's no one else on the waiver wire, just pick up Hayden Hurst. Now, you might be asking, why? Kyle Pitts is the tight end in Atlanta. But that's the thing. Kyle Pitts is not a tight end. Kyle Pitts is an offensive weapon. He lines up outside as much as he does a tight end. Hayden Hurst is getting plenty of tight end snaps. Hayden Hurst has been putting up consistent points for 2 weeks now. I think as Kyle Pitts' utilization changes to where they really use him more like an X receiver, it's going to open up more opportunities for Hayden Hurst. I think this is a buy low. Is he going to blow the roof off and put up 22 points in a week? No. But is he going to give you a solid floor, and he could probably give you a touchdown every week? I think there's a solid shot there.
And finally, for defenses, what do we say on this podcast? Follow the Jets. This week, they are playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who, by the way, are apparently pretty good. A shocker from the beginning of the year, but as of week 3, week 4, starting to become a little bit less of a shock every single week. This team, oh man, the Jets are gonna have some quarterback with a name. I'm sure it's a name that we'll know next week when we're talking about interception leaders, but I am excited about this juicy defensive opportunity. The Bengals are going to have a good time next week. I expect them to put up a really strong floor. And that ceiling, well, who knows? It's the Jets, and the Jets is the Jets.
I'm just going to put this out there. In his career against the Cincinnati Bengals, newly acquired Jets franchise quarterback, elite dragon Joe Flacco, is 9-11 against the Bengals, throwing for 211 yards per game with 21 touchdowns and 25 interceptions, QBR of 72.6. So, yeah, fire up the Cincinnati defense. That ain't going to be pretty.